Welcome to Heart to Mind, produced by More Studios. I'm your host Rumays, and
It's Samir.
today our guest is Lawrence McNeat.
Hello.
Hopefully pronounced that right.
You got it right. Yeah,
Yeah.
not many people get that right.
And he's the VP of Finance in New York City FC. He has prior experience in Unilever, and he worked for Man City for 9.5 years or so.
Yeah.
And he has worked with other corporations in sync. All right, so I want to start off with like this one icebreaker question that I had.
Cool.
So a lot of last names from people from UK
Mhm.
have like a descendant to it or like a special meaning behind it.
Okay.
What's yours?
I don't know. Great question. I think my family have looked at it for years to try and sort of figure out the history of it. I think the origins go back to like Ireland, Scotland, that sort of triangle between the North countries. But no, I don't really know anything more other than the coat of arms, which I think was a black shield with 3 gold lions, which kind of looks like a baddie from a Lego set. But other than that, I've got no real history of the family name. I think my great grandfather came over to Ireland, so came over from Ireland to the UK, round about the potato famine time. Um, and my granddad came over for the Second World War. He was working in the RAF, and that's where he met my grandmum. And that's where that side of my dad's family came. Other than that, I know very little about the history of my surname, other than the fact that people normally spell it or pronounce it wrong. But you got it right first time, which is great.
No, you actually told me last time.
Okay.
I said last
I was trying to big you up on your podcast.
It's all right, you know. I would rather be honest than fake it.
Smoke and mirrors, media.
To a degree, to a degree. Not we don't emphasize on getting it to that point. But yeah, it's your name is pretty unique. Your name is unique. We had another guest. His name is Adam Shalabi.
Okay.
His last name is pretty unique. Adam is like obviously you see commonly, but his last name Shalabi was like it's like a pretty unique name too.
Where did that come from?
I do not know. I did not ask him that question, but his last name is pretty unique.
Yeah.
So okay.
I actually found out there's actually loads of McNeats in the US and Canada, which amazed me. I just thought it would all be like a UK, Ireland, Scotland thing, but no, there's hundreds of them here.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they pronounce it the same as me, which I'm dying to find out.
Hopefully you do. I haven't found anyone with the same name as my first name yet.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yep. So you're on the same boat. You're on the same boat. So you are from UK. You're not from from New York City.
Correct.
You were raised in UK. You lived in UK. You studied there. You have all your friends, family, everything's there.
Correct.
So I want to start off from the move here and
Mhm.
then go back to your life a bit
Yeah, sure.
and then talk about your career choices and stuff.
Okay.
So how was the move from UK to here, and how did you deal with like the change of culture, and how was all that?
It was a lot smoother than I thought it was going to be. I've obviously you mentioned I've been with Man City and the City Football Group for just about 12 years now. I was with Man City for just under 10, I think, before I came over here. So there was lots of interactions between Manchester and New York. So I kind of knew the work ethic, and I'd been over to the States numerous times to sort of support New York. The opportunity came around, I think I was on a holiday, ironically, in Florida with the family. And I got a phone call from my boss in the UK saying that there's a bit of staffing issues in New York. Would you be able to go out for a couple of months just to help them out? Sort of consultancy basis. I was like, yeah, okay. So they had a couple of people leave towards the end of COVID, and it was hard to re-recruit, and the job market was hard. There wasn't that many. I think it was a workers market rather than the employers market, so it was hard to find the right staff. So I came over, and during that 6-month period, I kind of half adapted. So then when I did make the permanent move over, it was a lot smoother. Sort of knew the culture, knew the area, knew the people in the office, managed to make some acquaintances and friends and colleagues beforehand. So it seamlessly went quite well. Obviously, the HR departments here in the UK worked together and arranged a sort of like a relocation package. And I don't mean financially, there was support there to provided with local consultants to help set up social security, set up bank accounts, show areas of where you could live or not live. So yeah, it was a very, very smooth process
Smooth
for me.
transition.
So you left your family for there, or do you all just moved here?
So yeah, my then wife and daughter, I said to them at the time, look, I'll go out, I'll settle down, I'll find us somewhere, I'll find a small place initially, and then over a period of time, you guys maybe come over, look, and then we can look for a proper place to live, settle down. So that was the initial plan. Things had changed at home, stuff like that, and family have sort of decided to stay back in the UK. So where I am now is sort of just happy here, working, obviously sending stuff back, traveling back to see them, or them traveling over to see me regularly. My daughter was out last week for her half term, did lots of stuff, cost me a small arm and a leg. I don't know if arm and a leg is an American translated thing, or small fortune. I don't know if that's a British term or
Yeah,
not.
I think it's like arm and leg is like something that they use it here too.
Okay, cool.
I'm pretty sure
I can get away with that then. Yeah, I'm still learning the language here. Obviously, I said the word process
lingo.
before rather than process. Tomato instead of tomato, that type of thing. So I'm getting there. I'm
Crisps.
learning the language, settling in. Crisps instead of chips. Yeah, that's always a hard one. People say, do you want guac and chips? And I was like, obviously, to the British, chips is fries. Some people thought guacamole and fries. You think, oh, that's an unusual combination. But yeah, no,
Oh, you say
Fully.
chips as fries?
yeah, in the UK, chips is like potato chips. So it's
I
like
always found the
French
British
fries.
language fascinating. I try to mimic it
British
sometimes.
language.
I mean, like the English language there, like the accent. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's fascinating. It's like, I'd be saying mate sometimes. I try to
Yeah,
like
mates,
mimic
mates
it.
another one which they don't.
Mate.
don't
Mate, cheers, crisps. What else do I know that they usually use? It's more so colloquial for you guys. Colloquial.
In it.
Yeah, it's like it's more native based.
Yeah, it's funny. We've got quite a cosmopolitan team here. There's 2 English, American, a Kosovan, and a Mexican. And so yeah, there's always conversations about language and stupid things that we all say and don't say. And I'm just as critical of the English language and the stupid things that we do than we are of everything else. So yeah, we have a good bit of banter about it.
All right. So like moving on to your career right now, right? So how did you end up being choosing this career field as an accountant and moving up to the
Let's rewind first. Let's talk about
Okay.
your youth. So let's
Are you
build
going
up.
I mean,
back?
yeah,
Okay,
it's
yeah.
like
Yeah,
you,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like youth. Like, like how did you? Because I know you told me before that you wanted to be a soccer player.
Oh,
Yeah, I think
I
a
mean,
lot of
everyone
British a lot of British kids growing
So
up.
like,
soccer
how
players.
did that transition happen? Like, when did you decide not to become that soccer player, and then like,
I'm still harboring ambitions of being a soccer player. I won't lie. No, I think once you realise in the UK that you need to probably be about 8 and in an academy before you're going to make it through, then you go, right, okay, that career is not going to happen for me. Growing up in the UK in the 90s, there was the odd exception where some players got picked up or scouted for the first time at 20, but unless you were in an academy right the way from the start, it was very, very hard, and if not impossible. And there's also massive commitment as well to be any sort of professional athlete. You really have to dedicate a lot of your life. Almost going to school and university is an incredibly lot easier than it is training 40 times a week, driving across countries, making your parents take you from one place to the other. I think anyone who makes it in professional sport deserves a round of applause just because the amount of hard work and commitment they have to put in. But yeah, no, I've always wanted to, growing up as a Liverpool fan and working for this organisation is probably not the easiest thing to say. You always harbour ambitions of playing for your favourite team. I think other than football, as a child, you wanted to be either a firefighter or a pilot. Pilot was the one thing I think I kind of focused on when I was at
why
secondary
pilot?
school. I just love flying. I love the concept. And also, late 80s, there was a big film called Top Gun, which came out.
Top Gun, yeah.
Obviously, I know Top Gun is a relevant film in the US, and that just made me want to go, oh, yeah, I quite like the idea of being a fighter pilot. Then you sort of go, okay, maybe fighter pilot, commercial pilot, one of the two. They just seemed attractive careers. I kind of let myself down a little bit with my studies, A-levels. When I got to the ages 17, 18, the UK, you can sort of, that's when you're allowed to start drinking. I kind of found that. And not that I went down a drinking route, but, you find socialising with your friends a little bit more. And I concentrated more on socialising with my friends than I did on my studies. Went to university with a degree choice that I wanted to do, which sounds a lot more complex than it was. Mathematical engineering. Everyone looks at me and go, "Oh my God, I must be some type of genius." I'm not. Just to clarify that, I'm not any type of mathematical genius. It was elements of all the engineering competencies, but the maths side of it. So your chemical, mechanical, mathematical, thermodynamic, all those types of engineerings. But you just take the maths modules from each one, and that's what I studied. So I had a nice broad
It's
breadth.
very unique. What did you want to be like with that?
So I still had the sort of pilot in mind.
Oh, pilot in mind,
The research I did at the time said if you go to university, get a qualification with a grade X or Y, come out, apply for the courses, go through, go from there. Again, I was too into my sport, my socialising at university, so I didn't quite get the grades. And I was also unfortunate. My last year, I was ill for about 3 or 4 months, and I missed some core modules, which meant that I couldn't get the grades I wanted. They literally just capped me at where I wanted to be. It was that bit frustrating. So unless I did another degree, which would have been another 3 years, it wasn't something I was going to do. So after university, I took a year out. Decided just to sort of see the world. So I worked temporary, get some cash, and then myself and a few mates went traveling around the world. Went to see all different places. We went to West Coast of America, Pacific Islands, Australia, New Zealand, and then Singapore way, and then back home. So we did that. We did that for about 4 months. It was great. It was a great experience. Very eye opening. And then after that, I just thought, right, okay, need to grow up a little bit, find myself a job. Went to some temporary agencies. Said, you know what? Where can I go earn some cash? Just while I was trying to figure out what I wanted to be. And then I kind of sort of fell into accounting. I was always good with numbers and maths. And then some of the temp agency jobs were, you know, go to this accountancy firm or go to this company in the accounts department and you can help them out. And yeah, so I just kind of initially fell into it, but once I got into it and I started doing the qualifications, I sort of enjoyed it, found I was relatively good at it. Hopefully, if any bosses are listening, they'll agree with me and they'll give it a like on the podcast. And yeah, I just kind of gone from strength to strength. It wasn't something that I woke up and went, do you know what, I want to be an accountant. I didn't even think about where I'd work. And I think that's probably quite a good thing in life is don't pigeonhole yourself too early. Be open to something that could change. And my path has changed numerous directions over time and to get to where I am now.
So like the fact that a lot of kids, right, like university kids and high school kids, right, they always get the pressure saying that, oh, you need to decide on what you want to be right now or else you will not be able to change it later. Oh, you need to get that degree. And what are your thoughts on that mentality that everyone has, or like
Look,
most people have?
Yeah, it's an interesting debate. I think everyone is unique, and sometimes something can work for somebody, and sometimes it could be the completely wrong thing for somebody else. Sometimes, you know, if you're going to be a doctor or a medic, having that early direction, probably you need to be, because you need to get the right qualifications in the right subjects to go. You couldn't go to, I don't think you could go to university and study English and then come out and go, right, I'm going to be a doctor now. You obviously have to go back and do the medical stuff. So as those types of things, yes, you probably need to have an early direction. But on the flip side, if you do go down the doctor route and you're not enjoying it, it's never too late to change. I know people who are in their late 20s, 30s, 40s who've changed careers completely and gone from one thing to another. So be open-minded to anything. Never think, oh, I've got to stay with this now. Or if it's not right, change it. Because the one thing I'd always advise people to do when they get a job or a career is be in something that you enjoy. You know, want to go to work. Don't feel like you have to go to work, because that's not going to give you a good life. If you enjoy your work and enjoy the job you do, that is so much more rewarding. Even if you earn less money, being happy. I mean, if you think in a day 9 to 5, that's a large portion of your life. You want to be happy in that portion of your life. You don't want to be miserable and then enjoy the 3 hours at home just because you may have a few more dollars in your bank.
All right, so the idea is like you said that a lot of people, right? You said that, wait, let me rephrase that. You said that doing the right thing that you enjoy is better to do than the things that you should not be doing, because that might just like put strain on you and make you unhappy.
Yeah, completely. I think, you know, there's an expression, I don't know how well traveled it is, you're a long time dead. So, you know, enjoy the life that you have, I'd be happy. I'm not saying go out and party all the time, because that's probably a little bit reckless.
Yeah.
But within the realms of boundaries and balance, and find a job that you enjoy. And if you don't enjoy it, look for another one until you do enjoy it, I think.
So do you think the
Very spiritual answer, that. Apologies.
yeah, I think like no, I'm trying to come with this question, right? So like, if you've seen like a lot of Instagram and all those content that's been exposed to a lot of kids
Mhm.
and teenagers on like the kids like at the age of like teenage to like college to I would say like 30 to like 12 kind of range, right? They get exposed to this idea that you need to make a lot of money in order to be happy.
Yeah, I also think there's a generational thing of impatience compared to my generation, and I'm those listening, I'm very old school, also very old as well. The generation now is very, I need it now. It's an instant gratification that's required.
Yeah.
So people, if they go, if I'm not earning $1 million a year, then I need to move on. And I think that's not good for society. I think sometimes you do need to be patient. I did say don't stick at a job if you're unhappy in it. I still stand by that, but don't leave it after 30 seconds because you haven't given it a chance. Is probably the flip side of that coin. Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of social pressures today to get everything instant. Phones are instant. If you want information, it's in your pocket, in your hand. You don't have to go and look for it. Entertainment, Instagram, Facebook, it's all there straight away. And you can sometimes just get lost in it. So I think yes, technology is brilliant, but I think at the same time it can be very, very bad. And schools and social society should just try and reduce pressure off people to live in something that may or may not be realistic.
What do you think is the best way to do that?
Oh,
If you were to actually be in an administrative position or some type of organization that's aiming to counteract this and help the kids and the people, because it's not only the kids, it's all age ranges that are exposed to the same knowledge and like they're like same pressure. So like, what would be one of the ideas that you would try to implement?
wow. Oh, it's funny. I'm reading a couple of books at the minute. One of them is Atomic Habits, and apologies off the top of my head, the guy who wrote it.
James
I can't.
Clear.
Yes, have you read it? But it's a brilliant book.
It's a brilliant book.
There's
These guys don't agree with me, but yeah.
Oh no, I love it. I think there's some really, really brilliant ideas in there. One of them he said was that I think you can have timers on your plugs, and you can put a time on your plug, and you can put it on your router or router. See, I'm still learning the language. And it can just switch your router off at say like 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock, which means you can just put your phone down.
Yeah.
You can then engage if you're living with people, engage your conversations. I think speaking to people is a very important thing. Conversations, communities. I'm very pro post-COVID, get back to work, get people in the office, not for anything other than speaking to people and seeing people rather than being at home. I think if you're at home working constantly, it's very hard to have that distinction between home life and work life. Whereas when in the office, as soon as you leave the office, you've just got that switch which goes, not working anymore. But it's very hard. It's very easy at home to go, just answer another email. I'll just do this, just do that. So yeah, it's a really, really hard, deep, meaningful question you've asked there. How would you fix society with an idea? Don't know. It's there's probably a lot more people who are a lot more intelligent than me who would come up with better ideas. But I'd say certainly speaking to people is one way.
I think I would agree.
Whether it's in person, online, or wherever, face to face. I think have your camera on, even if you've got the bad hair day or whatever. I know, yeah. I saw your eyes look up then. I'm having a particularly bad hair day.
No.
But yeah, just speak to people and explore and learn, and just get a breadth of inputs into your life that isn't shoved down your throat.
Yeah, I think being realistic is also very important. Like I like to add on because
no, you're right.
As Ramey said, like people on Instagram, they look at like people say, oh, I'm earning like $1 million right now. Age 20, if you're not earning $1 million, you're a failure or something like that. But I think like everyone has their own pathways and their own obstacles in life, right? You can't all just be millionaires. I mean, obviously you have to like shoot for the stars, but still you have to be realistic You gotta like take your own accountability, like own. How do I say this? We all have our own lives, right?
Yeah.
Like there's always obstacles, and you gotta keep that in consideration.
Yeah, I think you're right. Aim as high as you can, but
start slow.
don't be depressed if you don't get there. Just keep thinking, how do I do it? But you're right. Yeah, there's a lot of things on Instagram where I want to earn 40 grand in 2 months, the easiest, laziest way possible. And there's loads of those videos, quick get rich quick guides and things like that. They're not good, I don't think, in society.
I think like
I think they're very hit
the
and miss.
get rid what is it called? It's there's a name for that scheme.
Yeah.
It's the get rich get quick get rich or
Get
something.
rich quick.
Get rich quick scheme is
Yeah.
like it's been a trend for a lot of the Instagram reels and stuff, but it's not true because obviously in order for anyone, like for example, let's take the world's billionaire right now, who's Elon Musk, I believe, last time I checked. Possibly, right? So he didn't start off with Tesla and become like this thing overnight. He definitely started with, I believe, Zip2. He sold that company for some million, for a huge sum. And then he bought Tesla, and then he brought it from ground up, and then he what's it called again? Starship?
There is space.
SpaceX.
Yeah.
SpaceX, and then now he's doing Neuralink and all that
Boring
good stuff.
company.
Boring company. So all those companies, he started it, yes, but it didn't happen overnight.
No.
You know? And going back to the conversation, you said, oh, the one thing that would probably fix is like speaking with other people. I would say I would agree with that too, just because I've been in this, I've been in this scenario where like I can't speak properly, speak what I think, right? And then I stutter a lot with what I speak. And I started looking into how to fix it and how to actually efficiently speak with other people.
Okay.
And some of the solutions was one, getting off Instagram, because what happens is when you're on Instagram and TikTok and those stuff, you're consuming content.
Yeah.
Your mind apparently needs time for it to consume the content and then let go of the content.
Okay.
If the input does not output the outflow, then it will your brain is too clogged. It cannot think properly. It has a lot of information.
It's like a overload.
Overload.
Okay, that's interesting.
And another thing is the idea of like having focus, right?
Yeah.
You can't, as you said, in order for you to like let's say like focus, right? You need to get, for example, right now you need to get out of work and go home, and then you will get a different environment, and you could focus in there. That's Atomic Habits also talks about that too.
Yeah.
And that's something that's there. But when you look at your screen, let's say for example, right now I could switch from my email to going to chat with one of my friends, or else you could just transfer over to Instagram and just start scrolling through TikTok or something. So I'm just right there consuming and like not shifting my focus anywhere else. So that's another contribution apparently to the fact that how you speak and everything.
Yeah. No, yep, you're right. I think communicating is good, especially verbal rather than texting. I think there's probably going to be a generation of arthritis in thumbs as well. There'll be a big thing in about 20 years where people can't hold things because their thumbs are all cream crackered.
All right. I think we should do a segue to your how did you get into like City Football Group and stuff like that?
Great question. It was in life you always get some random opportunities, and a very, very random opportunity. And you always say never look a gift horse in the mouth, and if you get an opportunity, take it. And this is probably a really good example. I was at Shop Direct at the time. I went to university with a guy called Martin Hawkins, who was a great friend of mine. He was working for a consulting company, Deloitte, at the time. He was then offered a position at Manchester City through doing work through Deloitte, Manchester City. They were impressed with what he'd done. They offered him a job, and I was just speaking to him online. He said, there's an opportunity up here. It's a short-term thing. Would you fancy it? I sort of ummed and ahed because I was living probably about an hour's drive away. I thought it's a little bit far. But there was a part of me being a massive soccer fan or football fan, depending which generation or which part of the world you're listening to this from. I thought, working for a Premier League club be quite fun. Have nice on the CV. It was only a short-term contract at the time. So he said, "Do you fancy it?" I thought, well, why not? I'll give it a go. Had an interview with the FD and one of his colleagues. They offered me the job on a 6-month contract. So I went there, worked my socks off, and they're like, they liked what they saw, and then they offered me a full-time job. And yeah, I'm still with the company 12 and a half years later.
So going.
So to answer your question, it was an opportunity that just arose and took it. I didn't apply for it, didn't look for it. It was a very circumstantial opportunity.
What did you join as? Like,
so my title at the time was, I think, senior management accountant.
I think that's pretty. Isn't that a reach high, like a level higher than base, or like
it's
senior?
Yeah, it's a funny. Job titles are a funny thing. I think in America, everyone's obsessed with job titles. You could almost give somebody in America a completely new job title, and they'd be so happy, even if you're not changing their pay. Whereas in the UK, you could call somebody a binman, but as long as you're paying them more money, they won't care. And it's really, really a different cultural thing. So everyone's obsessed here with that. He's like, no, my job title's this, and then you're comparing yourselves to other people in the companies. The job title's the important thing. Here's my card. It's got my job title on it. The UK, it's just like, no, am I this? Am I that? Doesn't matter. It's more about what I get paid at the end of the month in the UK. So yeah, it might seem a job title as a senior position. It was mid-management, mid-level. And again, it was only on a consultancy basis at the time. And yeah, sort of from there. And it was, for those soccer/football fans in the world, it was about 6 weeks before the famous Aguero goal when they pipped Man United, which was great. So I joined this up-and-coming club who hate Man United. And obviously being a Liverpool fan, it's almost ingrained in me to not like Man United as well. And then on the last day, or the last kick of the game, the company I was working for beat Man United to win the league. So it was a fantastic time to join. Really exciting, crazy scenes from an accountancy point of view. Crazily busy with first-time bonuses, this and this coming in. It was just great, so exciting, so busy. And working in sports, I think a lot of people always ask me, "Do you enjoy working in sport, or why do you enjoy working in sport?" And I think when you enjoy your job, I mentioned earlier about enjoying your job, seeing what you do almost directly impact TV or vice versa. You're watching the news and you know that tomorrow that's going to impact your day. That's really exciting for me. And it might not be exciting for some other people, but it is really exciting for me. And that's one of the reasons why I enjoyed it. And joining them was an incredibly exciting time.
Recently, like Man City and Liverpool, they've been fighting for the titles from the office. Maybe even giving each other side eyes.
That's it. Yeah, because obviously when I joined, Liverpool weren't the team that they are now. It's great that they're the team they are now. But there's almost been a bit of toxic rivalry between them, which never existed before.
Yeah.
And having known Man City fans for generations, Liverpool fans for generations, I really put this toxicity down to the media, trying to invent a rivalry. And I think certain fan groups have responded to it badly. In the year, if I'm being honest, both Liverpool and Manchester City fans have not behaved great with either songs they've sung or things they've done with buses and things like that. And it's a bit sad, really, because I don't think, certainly 20 years ago, that wouldn't have happened. And in the 70s and 80s, I don't think that would have happened either. So it's a bit of a shame. But obviously, going back to your point, that kind of brings a little bit of friction within the office, but only casual banter. There's nothing looking at me going, "We don't like him anymore. He's a Liverpool fan." Well, not that they say to my face anyway.
So
they might say it behind my back.
A good one. Jurgen Klopp is leaving. What's your thoughts on that?
I'm gutted. Absolutely gutted. I say we've been so close to winning so many titles.
Yeah.
And I was kind of hoping, every time the contracts were renewed between Guardiola and Klopp, I kept thinking they were overlapping each other. I thought, oh, great, at one point there's going to be a time where Man City don't have Guardiola and Liverpool will have Klopp. I thought, brilliant. That really should mean we've got the title in the bag. And now he's retiring. And also now he's stepping down. I was like, no. Because he's been brilliant for Liverpool.
Yeah,
I think
they just won the Carabao Cup.
Yeah. We just won the Carabao Cup with our under 12s team and Virgil van Dijk, which was a fantastic achievement. And apologies to any Chelsea fans listening to this. Great time. Great time to be a Liverpool fan at the minute. Truly gutted. But I think if you looked back in the 60s, 70s, Liverpool had a very charismatic Scottish manager called Bill Shankly, who was very Klopp-esque in his brilliant in press conferences, connected with the crowd, really bonded with them. And when he left the City, it was almost like someone had died. And if you speak to any Liverpool fan who were around the City at the time, it was a really sort of depressing time. But then the next manager came in, who was one of his assistants, and then he carried on the success, and he then became more successful than Bill Shankly. Although Bill Shankly still has this overarching God-esque title assigned to him by Liverpool fans, the more successful managers came after him, based off the sort of groundwork that he'd done. And I'm hoping that history repeats itself again, and whoever follows Klopp takes on his team but becomes more successful than him.
You think anyone should? You think there's a good replacement for him? Anyone you think would be a good fit for Liverpool right now?
I mean, I'm an accountant who's a fan. There's probably more sporting people qualified who would say, oh, the best fit would be X, Y, and Z. I think with any appointment in any sport or even in office, there's the right person for the right job at the right time. There's so many sports fans who go, this player is awful. I don't think there's such a bad thing. I don't think there's a thing as a bad professional sportsman. I just think sometimes there's a wrong fit, certainly within football. Klopp was the right fit at the right club at the right time. Everything just clicked. The players they brought in were very, very Klopp-esque signings. You know, he had a vision. The player has to be this. The player has to be that. And if a new manager comes in, I think if you find someone who plays a similar style to Klopp, then the transition should be smoother. But if you find someone who goes a completely different style, then that's going to be probably a harder transition because the players won't react to their training. They won't work that style of play. Then do you refresh the squad? Do you replace the manager? And I think a lot of clubs go through that type of that process. Man City are very good, and the City Football Group are very good at keeping that continuity. So they have one of the good things about the group is that they try and play a certain style away across all the teams. So the coaching methodology and the coaching philosophy is all this way, which is kind of like the Pep Guardiola way. And I'm not saying all the teams play exactly like Guardiola, but they try to pass out from the back, keep possession, press high, and create goals with 1-2 touch play. So when Guardiola leaves, you'd expect the Man City have either someone else in the group or they have a profile of people that they want to get. And I'm hoping that Liverpool are doing something very similar. They're obviously linked with Xabi Alonso, a former player who's currently managing at Bayern.
He's doing great, though.
He's doing brilliantly because there's not many teams in Germany who don't let Bayern win everything. So it's great to see Bayern not winning. And I feel so sorry for Harry Kane. I feel so sorry for Harry Kane. He is a great player. He's one of England's greatest ever strikers. And he's gone from being at a Tottenham team where they're not going to win anything to the most successful German team in history, and they're not going to win anything, which is just so sorry for him. And the other thing which I saw, and apologies for any Spurs fans or Harry Kane fans, the Bundesliga top goal scorer. Have you seen the trophy?
It's like
it's a cannon.
Like a cannon.
It's a cannon like the Arsenal badge. So if Harry Kane would finish his top scorer and doesn't win the league, he's going to get a trophy that looks like the Arsenal badge to celebrate his, which is so funny for every Arsenal fan and so bad for Harry Kane. It's just terrible for him. But obviously, it's great, I think, for football when new teams win competitions.
You like the drama too.
Yeah, it's actually one thing. I mean, I think a lot of Europeans will criticise American sports for the way that they're run and the way that they do things, and there's no promotion, no relegation. But the one thing you get in all American sports is no dominance. There's always a different team that will win it over a period of time. You might get like the Chiefs won the Super Bowl 2 years on the run, but you guarantee that they won't win it for the next 6 years because of the way the NFL is structured to almost stop that happening. And I think the Germany league, the Bundesliga in Germany, is really dull because it's just one team winning every year, and that's why it's great this year that they're not winning it.
Yeah, I think Juventus also for Italy used to be like that.
Yeah,
but now they're just getting like completely demolished.
Yeah, I think Europe is a very old-fashioned model of the bigger teams get bigger, whereas America, it's kind of more spread out. There's pros and cons to both. I think the American MLS market probably suffers internationally from that model, whereas obviously baseball, NFL, ice hockey, they're just contained in America, whereas the MLS is a global competition. Even though the NFL claim they're world champions, which granted they're the only team that play it, so you can't really be world champions.
That's crazy. But like moving back to on a bit more about you, right? So you worked with the Unilever.
Mhm.
It's a global corporation
Yeah.
that ships a lot of stuff. I know Nestle is one of them. Is it?
Nestle.
Oh, I'm not. Do you know what? I don't know. I should know. I should have it tattooed on my brain.
But like, yeah, you went from working with a global corporation to another global corporation, which is City Football Group,
Mhm.
right? How was that transition, and what was it? How was it like with working with the Unilever versus City Football Group?
So I went to Unilever when I was just sort of fresh out of university, pretty much, and I kind of joined on a graduate scheme. And Unilever by then was already, Unilever's been massive for
Yes.
almost like a century. So it was all set up as a group, global conglomerate, massive company. Man City, when I joined, was relatively speaking a small to medium business enterprise in Manchester that was just famous because they were a football club. They have grown from 2012 to where they are now, to which is a global brand. So it was different because you start in a small, almost like a seed, and then you just watch this thing grow. Whereas Unilever was already this massive thing that existed. I think the bigger a corporation gets, almost the colder it gets. There's more bureaucracy, there's more red tape. You become a smaller cog in a bigger wheel. And I think when I like working for smaller organisations where you can have much more of a say and input. But that's just me. Some people love to work for the massive corporate operations. But was it different? Yes, because I joined at different stages in their business of evolution or evolution. I forget which way it's pronounced here. I forget which way it's pronounced in the UK as well, being honest. So yeah, two almost completely different opportunities and experiences.
So like working with Unilever, what was some responsibilities that you had, and then what are some responsibilities that you had in like City Football Group?
So my responsibility at Levers was very, very small. I say because working in a big organisation, you're doing a very specific small thing, whereas City Football Group, as it's certainly in New York, you're doing more of everything because you have to. So when I started at Levers, I was looking just at one particular part of a European organisation. So I wasn't even working globally. I was based in Port Sunlight on the Wirral in England, which is a fantastic historical thing. If you've never heard of it, Google it. So small history and going completely off topic. Unilever was two companies, which was Uni Foods from Holland and Lever Brothers from the UK. Lord Leverhulme bought this really sort of swampy marshland, put a factory on it where they did all the soap, cleaning products, and then built a town next to the factory where he basically put all his workers in. And the town had its own social club, its own play area, its own doctors, its dentists.
Isn't
Basically,
it's like the Samsung thing in South Korea?
Possibly. But what Lever did, and this is in the 18 something like that. So he was very, very visionary, and he just basically set up this company. So I think he realised if people are off or they have to go elsewhere, then he's losing working time. So people would either work home, and it was like 2 minutes walk, or if they had to go to the doctors, it's in the place. So they weren't going anywhere. So that was Lever's setup. I've completely forgotten what you just asked me. I'm so sorry.
So what are some the responsible like
So yes, my responsibility. So yes,
responsibilities
so
in
that's Lever history. So Lever's had food and home care products. So I was looking at home care products, but I was only looking at one particular part in a European perspective. So I think we had, I'm going to say, 8 factories across Europe: Spain, France, Italy, Holland, Germany, Greece. And I was sort of speaking with their factory owners just to try and get submissions from them, which I'd put into a spreadsheet, pass it on to people. So it's very sort of low-level skilled initially. Part of the graduate scheme I was on, I kind of moved round, learning different elements to finance because I was a 22-year-old with no idea what finance was looking like. I was starting my qualifications there as well, starting to learn everything I know now. But it was good grounding. What I was doing at City Football Group was more broader, less specific. Specific, not Pacific, specific. So I was looking after, the first thing I did when I was at City Football Group was look after the entire football function or sporting function, looking after all the player contracts, make sure everything was accounted for correctly, paid on time, dealing with payroll to make sure that things tied into contracts and everything was above and in line with what it needed to be. So it was a lot more broader. And as I've sort of moved through my career, you get higher and higher and higher, more things fall under your remit, and to a point now where I am in New York is I'm almost sort of running the finance team. And Andy, my boss, will go, no, you're not. I kind of am. He's focusing on other bits. I'm sort of looking after student controlling, coordinating, coming up with policies, procedures, control mechanisms. You have more of a say here than I ever would at Levers.
So like, how was the transition for you from that company to a company that you have more say in? Like you could just, you're so in a bigger organization, you don't feel like you're represented.
Yeah, I think because before I went from Unilever, I almost did it via Shop Direct, which was a large catalog company, home delivery network. So you go to there, and that was smaller than Levers, but bigger than Man City. So it was a nice sort of hybrid between the two. You get a little bit more seniority. You start to see a little bit more. But yeah, different people like different things. Some people just like having, I'm only focusing on this. And, that's great for them. Other people like, I need to know everything. And again, going back to the point I talked about earlier, find the thing that's right for you. Some people don't want to get promoted. They're happy in the job they're doing, which is great. Stay there. If you're happy and you're enjoying it, great, stay there. There's other people who are so obsessed, I've got to get here. I kind of, me personally, I like the organic growth. If I do a good job, I understand it. I understand a bit more in and around me, and then ready for promotion. Again, I understand a bit more around me, and then ready for promotion. That's me. That's how I like things. So every time, going to your point, what was different, I like learning more stuff, becoming more aware, understanding more of the bigger picture, so that one day if I do get to be the top dog, I'm not someone who's doesn't know everything and have that sort of fraud element where you think, how did I get here? There's people who beneath me will know more, which is nothing wrong with that, but you sort of have that, I can't think what the phrase is, where you're frightened of not knowing anything, sort of fraudulent, something to do with fraud, I can't remember off the top of my head.
It's like sort of like faking what you know.
Yeah, you have that sort of, I can't remember the tagging name of that. It's such a famous phrase as well.
Imposter syndrome?
Yes, imposter syndrome. That's it. Well done, that man. 3 points at the back. Every time you get promoted, you always have that imposter syndrome fear. You think, oh my God, what am I going to do? I don't think I know what I'm doing. That exists. But when you go through it organically, for me, and it's just for me, I feel less imposter syndrome than if I just shot up through a right to the top and then go across.
So do you think that some people who get, I don't want to say lucky, because everyone does put their share in to get somewhere, but in this frame, I'm going to use the word lucky. So let's say, for example, like someone just has a lot of connections and then shot up to the top with like luck, I guess.
Opportunity
Opportunity-wise,
they get more opportunity, yeah.
do you think that they feel like the imposter syndrome, like do you think that they deserve it just because they have the opportunity?
It's yes and no. It's a good question. So my opportunity when I got into City was just through someone I knew. Yeah, I didn't get the job because I knew them, but I got the opportunity because I knew them. Was I lucky to get the opportunity? Yes. Was I lucky to get the job? No, because I interviewed well, I knew my stuff, I answered, and the guy who eventually employed me would probably say, yeah, hopefully I picked the right guy, because I'm still here, I'm still working, still going good. So anything like that can be seen two ways. Someone outside who came to the job and say I interviewed better than them will go, he was so lucky. He got that through. And I think it's very easy to be jealous of something that you don't get in anything in life. But there's some people don't always know the full story. So are people lucky to get to the top? No, I just think they get better opportunities. And sometimes, there's always a famous phrase, it's not what you know, it's who you know. That can only get you so far. That can get you opportunities. Knowing people can get you opportunities. And when I've spoken to colleges and schools before, I've always said network as much as you can, because that will give you opportunities. It won't guarantee you anything other than opportunity. Being good at what you do will ultimately progress you through your career.
What are some ways that young people can network?
10 conferences or seminars, or if you've got guest speakers, if someone from school, if schools sometimes invite guest speakers to come in and talk, that's one way. I know NYCFC are quite good at speaking to colleges and doing sort of like an open day on matches, where I've done it a couple of times, where you have a panel and there's 3 rooms. You've got a room with like legal, HR and finance. You've got another room with ticketing, commercial and marketing. And then you've got another one with like our community program, our facilities. And you can just go and you can listen to people almost be interviewed in a way, and they ask questions similar to what we're talking here. How did you get here? Where did you do? What would you recommend? What did you study? I'm doing this. Is that the right thing? So networking is a great way to get opportunities. I think professionally, LinkedIn is a great tool, because you can go and you can just start messaging people. I would never say scattergun, email everyone, because I think that will not do your profile good. But if you know what you want to do and you want to target, you can certainly follow people and then message them. And sending someone an email is more likely to get you something, even if they don't reply, than not sending the email and just hoping that a letter will magically appear from a fairy godmother.
If you're enjoying this podcast, make sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment. Over 90% of you guys have not subscribed yet, so please subscribe.
Were you there during that time period that Messi was supposed to go to Man City?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
How was that commotion like?
It was brilliant, because you sat in this bubble and in a stadium surrounded by like a fence. So you're quite secure, but you're just watching TV go mad, and all the breaking news stories. And that was I mentioned earlier about seeing things on the news that directly impact what you're going to do the next day. And there's people working on plans and packages and this, that, and that. So it was a very sort of funny time, an exciting time. Yeah, you sort of think, what's going to happen next? Yeah. So I was there. Yes, I was. Can I say much more about it?
Yeah.
Probably not.
How did it feel though? Like, it was like this and it was like this.
How did I feel about it?
Were you expecting it? You wanted it?
Well, from a finance person, I was looking at, oh my god, this is going to cost us so much money.
I have to.
That was probably my first thing. And you're watching a football game, working in a football club, going, or that we've just qualified for this round. That's great for the P&L, or great for the cash. We've just scored a goal there. Oh no, we have to pay a bonus here. You're watching it differently, not in a bad way, but it's sort of differently. You're watching the Champions League draw, and the ticketing department are wanting to get PSG and Bayern Munich and Barcelona in the group, but the sporting department are wanting Shakhtar Donetsk, Anderlecht and somebody else. And you think, which one's going to be more happy? The finance team probably want both, because you get the great revenues, but then you get the guarantee of the prize money for winning the games. So you watch it differently, and when players come in, it's exactly the same thing. You're going, well, how is this going to fit into the budget, the restraints that we've got at the time? There will always be, if it was ever going to have happened, we would have found a way to have done it. We would have had to probably sell a few players or one thing or another. But yeah, it was sort of exciting at the time. If I was being honest, I thought it was more of a pipe dream. But I know there were people in the club who were like, no, this is quite close to happening.
So did you anticipate him moving to Inter Miami?
No. The impact he's had in Miami has been fantastic for America, and it's going to be an interesting year this year, and it's next year. I think he is this sort of unicorn of football. He has attracted so much attention to the league, I'm just wondering, is it almost like a sugar rush where you'll get all this great stuff and then there'll be a massive crash at the end of it? Or will it be almost like a shot of adrenaline where it gives the league a kick and then kick on? I think that's the interesting bit that's going to happen after this whole Messi thing. There was always, with the sort of Beckham links in Miami, there was always, I think, a thought globally, not necessarily in the MLS, I wasn't here at that time, that Beckham would have some type of commercial aim or arm or something up his sleeve that could help Miami have that sort of extra advantage commercially, or even on the sport field, because I think he has a great, if you've watched the Beckham documentary, which is really interesting,
No, I didn't.
it's worth watching actually. His network of people who he's played with, played against, played alongside, he's got a lot of network, a lot of connections where he could go, yeah, why don't you come and play for my team here? And I think that's probably what happened with Messi. I think Messi probably had a house in Miami anyway.
I think
remember
he has
something.
like partnerships with like Hard Rock.
Yeah, possibly. I'm not too close to it to be able to sort of say one way or another. But yeah, so that's. Did I see it happening? No. Was I surprised that it happened? No. If that makes sense, because of the Beckham connection.
Oh.
And it might not just be because of the Beckham connection, but when I said Messi's going to Miami, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, no, I can sort of understand why he's
I
gone there.
wanted him to go to
and not like-
Barcelona though.
Do you think that he'll ever go to Barcelona? Because I know for a fact
But
that.
Barcelona, like as a finance, like they're dying right now.
Sorry,
Yes,
and you're a
they are.
financial manager.
They are. It's.
Do you know what's going on?
I did laugh when Messi left Barcelona originally.
He laughs.
Because he said, "Oh, there was nothing I could do. They can't afford to keep me." I was like, "You could play for free." That was the cynic in me going, "I think you've got enough money. I don't think you. It's not as if you've on the. That's me guessing. As someone who is very jealous of his salary that he gets, he might just have just as many costs as he has income. But you think, you probably don't. You could probably survive a year or two with the money that you've made over your career to be able to play for the team that you adore and love and is so close to your heart for a season without on minimum wage. He could have done that if he was like, "But no, there's nothing I can do." I mean, if I'd love to think if Liverpool ever said to me, "We're short of players, will you play for free?" I'd jump at the chance. I would literally be all over that. Yes, where do I sign? I'll pay you to play for them. But that's so yeah. And you think, "Oh, there's nothing I could do." Yeah, I didn't really agree with that. And then he went to Paris Saint-Germain, where he earned a lot of money. He's like, "Oh no, I don't want to be here." I must have. I did think that he'd end up going to Saudi Arabia or the Middle East leagues. I thought he would go there,
Why?
especially when there was
money.
when he was at PSG. I think they dropped him for a game because he'd been out to
to Saudi Arabia.
to Saudi Arabia and allegedly speaking to people. I have to say allegedly in the world we live in now, especially in this country, so much legality and everything
Yeah.
compared to the UK. Be careful what to say. So I really thought he'd go there, and so a little bit surprised he picked Miami. Also, yeah, as I said before, yes, surprised, but no, not surprised at the same time.
Do you think the Miami signing that he had is like worth more than the signing that Saudi League gave him? Because I do know that he got like a bundle from Apple.
Yeah, there's
Adidas.
so many rumors. There's probably only about 10 people who know for certain. I mean, when Beckham signed in the MLS for Galaxy, I think one of the things they said to him was like, because the MLS is structured more like all the American sports, where it's all centrally contracted by the league. It's not the individual clubs. The individual clubs will pick who they want, but ultimately they're all controlled and owned by the MLS. Unlike European, where they're paid and all they're owned by their clubs. I think when Beckham signed for Galaxy, I think the MLS said, play for Galaxy, you'll get this salary, and we'll give you first dibs on the next franchise that comes up. Next franchise that came up was Miami, so that's why he got into that. It's my understanding. I don't know that for a fact. It's not really mentioned a lot in the documentary, but you hear rumours in the stories. And I think the Miami Messi thing was something very similar, where I think the MLS said, look, if you come to Miami, you'll get this wage, and the other thing we can do is give you part of the Adidas deal or give you part of the Apple deal that was struck. And so I think he gets elements of that. I don't know that for certain, but that they're just reports you sort of read in the paper.
So Messi or Ronaldo?
For me, Messi.
Okay.
If I'm being a non-Liverpool fan, I'd still say Messi. Obviously, Ronaldo had that stint at United, which is almost therefore tattooed on my arm to not like him. But no, I think they're both great players, and I think if they were been at different times, they'd almost be considered like Pele, Maradona, who never played at the same time. They'd be like that. I think Messi's technical ability is superior to Ronaldo's, but I think Ronaldo's mental strength is significantly stronger than Messi's. I think Ronaldo is someone who will work and work and work and work to be where he's at, which is a great thing for kids. He just appears to be very self-centered on the pitch, whereas Messi seems more of a team player, but is more naturally gifted. Now, I'm probably doing him a disservice. Messi's probably worked just as hard, but I think Ronaldo had that more sort of, I want to be here and I'm going to do everything to be there. He was training to get where he is. His physical fitness, I think, has enabled him, the way he's looked after himself, to be where he's at now, which is still playing at a high level. For him, he's not playing at a high level league. Saudi Arabia. He's not playing a high level league, but he's still probably one of the fittest people in world football in terms of being able to jump high, leap, and he doesn't get many injuries. So he really looks after himself. I remember hearing reports that when he was at United, Wayne Rooney was the better footballer, like quite clearly the better footballer, like by streets ahead than Ronaldo.
Yeah.
But Ronaldo looked after himself. He didn't have a sausage roll or pie after the training. He didn't go to the pub or do that. He basically went, no, my career is short. I'm going to make sure that I do everything I can to look after it and maintain it. And whereas Rooney was like, oh no, I'm really talented. I'll just do this. I can get by doing that. And again, this is all allegedly from reports you read on the report. I've never spoken to either of them. They're probably both very nice chaps. They've never commented that on to me in real life, but I'm only basing that off stories.
Oh, okay. So
with the allegedly,
yeah.
I'll do the in double inverted commas as well.
It seems like you prefer MLS over the Saudi League. Or what do you think? MLS or Saudi League?
It's a really interesting debate on where the MLS is internationally as a league. I think the world would say the Premier League is the top league. I kind of agree. I think it's probably because I'm biased and from there. I think some of the arguments that people put forward for the Premier League being better is that they're not the same. It's not just two teams in it, and then you look at it and go, there actually are just two teams in it. It's probably Liverpool or City this year, maybe Arsenal. Unlike the German league where it's just Bayern Munich. Unlike this year where they've now got three teams going for it. And then you look at Spain and there's only three teams in it there. There's three teams there, but which is one more than the two in the UK. But there is this sort of perception that the Premier League is better. I kind of understand it. There's more money in it, more people globally watch it. So I think the Premier League is a better league. Where does the MLS sit? It's a great debate, and it depends. I don't know what statistic you could use to say who's second, third, fourth, fifth. Is it on people watching it? Maybe that's a metric. Is it on money generated from broadcasting? I don't know.
So looking at it from a financial perspective, you see the money that Saudi League is pouring in like crazy, right? And MLS is trying to compete against the same thing.
I suppose where they are. If there was a league table and there's hundreds of league tables of which league is better, I think the MLS and the Saudi Arabia are probably vying for the same type of. They're neck and neck for me. Which one's gonna? The MLS have got probably a better sustainability, but they are very hamstrung by the fact that they have caps in place. You can't do this. You can only spend this much on your players. You're only allowed this many what they call designated players. Is that holding the MLS back? Possibly. Is it stopping people going bankrupt? Possibly. The MLS was set up after the '94 World Cup, having had American leagues fall because New York Cosmos, etc., just spent too much money, and it wasn't sustainable, and that's why the American League fell. So they're very good at making sure that it doesn't fall, but are they holding themselves back from being a bigger league? The Saudi League is just kind of like the China League. The Chinese Super League probably about 10 years ago was doing something very similar, where they were paying all the best rejects from across European leagues and paying them a lot of money to go over to China, and they're just throwing money at it. That for me wasn't sustainable, and I don't think the Saudi league is either.
But don't you think like the Saudi league, they have a vision? I think they're trying to like.
Well, that's what I was saying. That's why it's an interesting debate. It's like where are they going to be in 3 years, 4 years? Because the first signal for me is that there's people leaving the league already, or there's people being discontented. Like Benzema's still there, but there was talk of him leaving. Obviously, Jordan Henderson, I think, left and has gone to Ajax. Firmino's left and gone somewhere, or wanted to go somewhere. So there's quite a bit of discontent with players. So it's going to be interesting how that dynamic works. They're talking about, they're going to buy Mo Salah next, or they're going to buy this player next. They need to have a plan, and it'd be interesting to see if they do have a plan and what the plan is. Because at the minute last year it was just, let's get as many famous big names as possible and spend a lot of money on them. Seemed to be their plan.
The fact that you said about China was very interesting. I know they were trying to like sign Iniesta. Mm-hmm. These are other top people, but I think Saudi League, they're actually trying to like move away from the oil industry, in my opinion, because they're doing different boxing events. I think they're hosting a World Cup, if I'm not mistaken, after USA.
Do you know what? I should know that. I don't.
I think they are.
I think they are trying. I think they have placed a bid. It's Saudi Arabia, Greece, and then Egypt. No, that's Egypt, Morocco, and Greece have placed a bid. Saudi Arabia, I think they placed a bid on themselves only.
No, I think it's Saudi Arabia,
and
Greece,
I think it's another
Morocco.
country, I believe.
Okay,
but I'm not confirming anything over here. I don't know anything. I don't know, but but Saudi Arabia is putting in for a bid for the FIFA World Cup.
Okay,
to host it.
I think they're trying to mimic Qatar.
Yeah,
a little bit, because Qatar was actually a success.
It was a really good World Cup. There was a lot
of backlash too.
There were so many people who, I mean, there was a lot of things wrong in the Qatar World Cup, and a lot of rights across different societies and beliefs, etc. But a tournament itself was run very smoothly. I think the crowds were decent. Everyone was very well behaved. And it was more of a success than people. I think a lot of people wanted it to fail. Yeah, and I think people were, especially in Europe, where it's like, oh, they've only got it because of
the money,
suspected bribery, and this, and this. There's all those sort of, again, jealousy people because they didn't know the true story. They just, Qatar had an opportunity. Trying to come back to what I was saying earlier. They had an opportunity. They possibly interviewed very well, and they got it. Has it grown the game in Qatar? I think the World Cup should be about trying to improve soccer, football in that region rather than anything else. So if there's a legacy, I mean, like the legacy of the 94 World Cup was the MLS League. Is there going to be a legacy from the Qatar World Cup in Qatar? Don't know. And that really should determine whether it was a good World Cup or not. Have beliefs changed? Have anything else changed? Is there more people into sport? Are kids becoming healthier? Are they being active more? Has it been more inclusive? That will be probably a longer term dynamic as to whether it's been a good World Cup. Watching it on the telly, oh, brilliant, yeah, done, great final, success, 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10, whatever it was. But yeah, I think there's more to the World Cup than that, unfortunately.
So what do you think will be the impact in MLS after the 2026 World Cup?
Great question. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be really interesting. Obviously, it's Canada, US, and Mexico, isn't it?
Canada, US, and Mexico.
Yeah.
But like, what would be specifically towards MLS? Because here,
also Copa America's coming.
Copa America's coming this summer. Yeah, Club World Cup. I think what it should do is continue to grow the sport in the country. I think there's a very, very good setup in this country, youth-wise. I think the academies and everything in the US are producing great kids. I think the US soccer team in the last World Cup looked really good. They just didn't have a striker. And I think if they have a striker in the next World Cup, they could probably get quarterfinals, semi-finals. Again, learning where I am. And I think that is a history. I think the league is set up. It's quite Will more billionaires go, I want to set up another MLS franchise? That'll be one metric. Will participation in schools go up? Will viewing figures in the MLS go up as a result? They're all probable matrix or metrics to see if it's been a success or not. I'm really excited. I think it's going to be great for the country. And if it gets more people kicking a bag of wind around on a grass pitch, then it's been a success.
So, I was thinking something. I was thinking of a good question.
Well, do you know, one thing I'd probably change in
Yes.
the World Cup, which I don't think they do, I don't know why they don't have the men's and women's World Cup at the same time. Like, with the Olympics and the Paralympics, I'm not saying that the women's is a Paralympics equivalent to the men's World Cup in any way, shape or form, but those two things are almost back to back. And I think what would be good for the game as a whole is if you almost marry the two rather than, because I think sometimes the Women's World Cup can get lost in other things. It's not as, in certain parts of the world, it's not as famous or it's not as televised or it's not as well marketed. And I think if you start to link the two together, I think you might get some synergies. It doesn't have to be on the same cities, or even in the same weeks. But if you put them in the same season, same summer, then I think that'd be a really interesting.
Yeah, I think that is thing because like you have the men's World Cup and then it's done, and then people are still recovering from that, and then Women's World Cup happens, but nobody really realizes
Yeah, and
that it happens.
the FIFA or whoever hosts it could start going, well, if you buy 2 tickets for the women's game, you get 1 ticket for the men, and you package it like that, or however they do it.
Do you think that women's soccer, just as an industry as a whole, is not getting any representation, or like if they're getting?
I think it's growing, but I think it could be growing quicker. I think there's a reluctance from corporations to invest in it as much as they do in men's sport, even though women's sport profitability wise could actually be more profitable, because there's more controls, there's less prima donnas asking for massive contracts, there's less agents demanding things. So I think investment wise, yeah, women's soccer could actually be a better investment. It's just sport is very emotive in anything, and it's very sort of prestigious, and people go, I own this, look how good I am. And there isn't that prestige yet with women's soccer, which I think is wrong.
What do you think is what would you propose that, let's say for example you work with the City Football Group, right? That is not a soccer organization. What do you think would be a good solution to propose to them so they could implement and fix that barrier?
I think they're trying. City Football Group have been very good with Manchester, the Manchester women's team there. If you look at what they've done over a period of time, they've taken a amateur team that just had the Man City name. They've really sort of brought it into the CFG family. They've modernised it, they've professionalised it. And I think the WSL in the UK is doing really well. It's growing. It's very, very professional league. And I think you can see the success on that is having in the England's women's team internationally. I think the players, it's just significantly better than it was 20 years ago. It could be better. And I think how can you make something better? Generally by putting more money into it. Where does that money come from? It's either going to come from commercial or broadcasting. Yeah, so how could people make women's sport better? More people need to invest in it. I mean, I talked earlier about the men's and women's World Cup being at the same time. If you look at all the tennis tournaments around the world, all the majors, the matches are interlinked. All the matches are interlinked. So if it works in women's tennis, why does it not work in... Sorry, if it works in women's and men's tennis, why would it not work in another sport? And all these people who are paid thousands and millions of dollars to come up with these wonderful ideas of let's have a World Cup every 30 seconds. Why not consider what like other sports do? Tennis, because tennis works really well. You get people going. It's probably the most balanced sport in the world, tennis, in terms of competitiveness, equality. I know there's obviously a debate about women getting paid more than men, and also men getting paid more than women, and women have an equal thing. For me, I can understand both sides of the argument. I think in a utopia, everyone should be paid the same for playing the same sport. However, from a financial side, if people are willing to put more money into one side of it, then that's where the money should go, rightly or wrongly. If I kind of and that's what I understand why it goes there.
Yeah.
Not necessarily I agree with it, just so I can understand it. Just before I get a lot of people lynch-pinning me afterwards. But yeah, why doesn't football follow tennis? Why not? Why not try it and see if it works? It might be an absolute car crash. It might be brilliant. And then you just watch how many other sports would do it.
I think like the trial and error is kind of a gamble to be, because FIFA, like, they've been successful consecutively. They don't want to like break the chain, because every World Cup has, like, obviously in the money aspect they make like millions and millions every World Cup. So I think, I don't know.
But then,
to be
but then that
honest.
goes to a point. What's FIFA there for? Is it to grow the game, or is it to make money?
It's true.
FIFA should be a non-profit organisation that just coordinates it.
Are they a non-profit?
I'd have to have a look at their finances to possibly comment on that. Don't have them to hand. But yeah, so that's what I say. FIFA should be about growing the game. The Qatar World Cup was about growing the sport in that part of the world. So that that's what they are designed to do. So if it's about growing the game, grow the women's game next to it. Now, obviously, I'm probably unsure about if the FIFA organisation and the women's FIFA is part of the same network or not. I should know that, and I don't, and that's really bad of me. But yeah, why not? Why not have them together and then grow the sport together, make it more unified? Because then you've got families of brothers and sisters who then play the same sport, rather than one side of the world being the girls are playing the football and the other side the boys are playing football in completely different parts of the world.
That's definitely true. So, coming to like this one question that we always ask everyone, what's an advice you will give to yourself 3 years ago or someone younger than you?
Ooh.
It's a signature question.
Yeah, it's a good question. Find a job that you enjoy. Yeah, I think I said that earlier in the podcast. Don't stick at something if you don't enjoy it. But don't leave it straight away, because then you put yourself into a bad financial situation. But if you're not enjoying something, if something's making you unhappy, don't sit it out. Ascertain what you want and what makes you happy, and follow your dreams.
Follow your dreams.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty good advice. All right, thank you for coming on today.
Thank you very much for having me. I've really enjoyed this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great to meet you. Who have you got next?
Thank you guys for watching this episode of Hard to Mic, produced by Mars Studios. Please do leave a comment, subscribe, and like this video, and also follow us on Spotify, Instagram,